Okay, we're in for the good stuff now. How to structure a joke. By the time we're done with this lesson, you're going to be writing jokes. Joke structure is actually really easy. There's a setup and a punchline. That's it, and it comes in that order. I can't tell you how many times people will start with punchline and provide a setup. What you'll learn in writing, or what you've learned in writing, in like essay writing, is you make your statement and then you support it. What we're saying is provide your support so that you can give us your statement. Does that make sense? We want to surprise you. We want to provoke that involuntary response. We want to create the tension. Some people say that there is a premise, a setup, and then a punchline. And I would say that we can go right to setup and punchline. And if there's a premise that hangs out, we can talk about that at another time. So a setup, you're providing the least amount of context necessary to create enough tension so that when you deliver your punchline, there's a laugh. So here's a joke. This is the joke that I've used for a long time, that I open with many times, especially in front of audiences where I'm not sure what I'm going to get. I get up on stage, I cheer for everybody. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm fat. Yeah, I blame my father mostly. You might have met him. His name's Papa John. That's the joke. That's it. It works. It's worked for years. You might have chuckled. You might have groaned. It's a little bit of a groaner, but it works, and it's a nice opener. So let's talk about the structure of that joke. There's not a lot to it, right? I'm fat. That is part of my setup, or some people would call the premise. I'm fat. I blame my father mostly. I blame my father mostly. You might have met him. Those two things right there are your setup, right? Because what can we tell from this joke? I'm fat, so we're talking about me being fat and obese. I blame it on my father. So where does your brain go from here? You are thinking, well, he's going to talk about genetics, or he's going to talk about my upbringing, or my diet based off of how my dad fed me. You might have met him. Okay, well, you might have met him. Maybe my dad's famous, or so there's something that's steering us in a slightly different direction. His name is Papa John. Okay, there's your punchline. His name is Papa John. Why do we laugh at this joke? Well, we release the tension because I've been critical of myself and my father. And we're also creating a little bit of a quick story for you to try to figure out what's happening. So when I rip off the Band-Aid and I reveal that his name's Papa John, well, Papa refers to father, and but the name Papa John is pizza, right? Yes, we are beating this joke like a dead horse, but it's really important as you look at your own jokes and you look at other people's jokes, why they're funny. What's the setup? My particular joke involves something called misdirection. You were expecting for something to go a particular way, and then a sudden misdirection, release tension immediately, pop that balloon, and hopefully made the audience laugh. So, what if I told that joke in a different way? I blame my father mostly for being fat. His name's Papa John. That works, right? His name is Papa John is the punchline. That works. I've tried it that way before. The way that I do it seems to get the most laughs. What if I started with, my dad's name is Papa John. I blame him for being fat. Yeah, maybe it works. But anytime you put the punchline in the front, you've given away your direction. And everything you're providing after that is just support. You might as well just say, it was so funny, or you had to be there. Things that people that aren't very good at telling stories say a lot. So the hardest thing to do as a joke writer is to remove as many words as possible to provide enough context for there to be a punchline, because you want to have as many what we refer to as laughs per minute as possible. One comedian a long time ago told me it had to be 7 laughs per minute, right? So that would be 1 laugh every 8 or 9 seconds. Certainly a hard thing to do. I think comedy has evolved since then, and that's more in the days of one-liners like a Mitch Hedberg or a Stephen Wright or Dimitri Martin, who's also a very good one-liner comedian. People are coming to a comedy club to laugh, not to learn. So if you can provide just enough information for them to feel the tension and to laugh, that's a great thing. So if we go back to the original joke of I'm fat, I blame my father mostly. You might have met him, his name's Papa John. What if I started by saying, I'm overweight, I really need to go to the gym and work out, I'm not eating right, and I went to college, and when I started college, I weighed 175 pounds. When I graduated, I was 250 pounds. And I blame my father mostly, he just because of the nature of who he is and where he came from. And he's a good guy and everything, and he's really responsive and everything. And you might have met him because his name's Papa John. Does that make sense? Did you fall asleep while I was telling that joke to you? If we can remove as much context as possible, that would certainly help. The best way I can compare it to is when you're telling a story to a friend and you're providing way too much information up front. So the story, the gist of the story is, you won't believe this. We got in the car, we almost got into a car wreck. We thought we were lucky, but then a storm hit us and pushed us onto the side of the road, and we were stranded for 3 hours before someone pulled us out of a ditch. We almost died. Okay, that's your story. However, most people, when they tell a story like this. Oh my God, Brandon, remember Marcia? We went to grade school together. And Marcia, she was like skinny, but then she got fat, and then she got skinny, and then she got fat. Okay, well, let me back up. So Marcia called me because we could see what I'm doing here. We haven't even talked about the interesting part of the story. The interesting part of the story is we almost got in a wreck, got back in our car, thought that was the end of it. A storm pushed us into a ditch, and we almost drowned till someone got us out of the ditch, right? That's it. That's the story. Not looking for humor there, but that's the story. Stop providing so much information. Provide the least amount of information possible to get to your punchline. And the only way you know how to get there is to write everything that you can possibly think of out of your brain. Write it all down without editing. Write it all down. Write every single thing that you can possibly think of down. The editing is where your joke will find its way out of. So sculptors will always tell you that the sculpture is inside of the mound of clay. They just have to dig it out. That's your job. Create a mound of words, and then your job is to carve it out of those words. Does that make sense? Editing is not that important. Your audience will do that for you. If you've written a basic joke that you think is enough to try on stage, try it. The worst thing that you can possibly do is edit a joke over and over and over again before ever putting it up on stage. If you do that, it's still probably not going to work. It's still probably not going to be funny. In fact, 10% of the jokes that you put up on stage are usable. And of those 10%, you might find that 10% of those end up staying in your set for any significant amount of time. Jokes constantly change and evolve, but you should let the audience dictate how they change and evolve, if that makes sense. Let the audience change and evolve your jokes for you. If you're filming your sets, if you're up in front of an audience on a regular basis and filming your sets, they will tell you how your jokes go. Because all we care about is that thing that makes people laugh. And if you can find that, then you're in great shape. Here's some other things that you can play around with if you're having a tough time getting your joke to put itself together. This is a quick writing exercise. I'm fat can also be said, I'm obese, I'm overweight, I eat too much, I need to diet, I'm grotesquely overweight, I have the opposite of bulimia, I'm chunky. There's a list of different ways that I can convey to you that I'm fat. And I've tried a lot of them on stage, but for whatever reason, in this particular case, delivering I'm fat is the best way to deliver that information. So use synonyms, use antonyms, use alliteration, rhyming, homonyms, puns. Try as many different ways as you can to get it up on stage and try that joke. And when you film it and you go to watch the playback, then you'll be able to see where the audience laughed. And then also as a performer, if you're doing your homework and watching Netflix and YouTube and going out to comedy clubs and watching comedy, you'll begin to predict what people are about to say. And then when you're watching your own set, you'll be able to pay attention to what they're saying. It's really important for you to understand that no matter what your style of writing is, every single thing you say has a setup and a punchline. Every time somebody laughs, there is a form of a setup or a punchline. There's a few comedians that are out there that are known as like story comedians, like Dane Cook. And Dane Cook is constantly beat up publicly for not having standard setup and punchlines. The thing is, the way he tells his story, he creates a bunch of tension in the story. So when he gets to the end of his story, or when he gets to the middle part of a story that has a beat or an end to it, he's very, very, very direct and energetic. And that energy kind of pops that tension balloon, if that makes sense. Remember this, you need to write every single day. And starting right now, your homework is to write 10 jokes a day, every single day. They don't have to be funny jokes. They don't even really have to be jokes. They just need to be 10 lines of material that you can look back on at the end of the week and edit and do something with or try to put up on stage. If you'd like to tell a funny story, then maybe my recommendation is 250 words a day. The bottom line is you should be writing somewhere between 1,000 to 1,250 words a week, or writing somewhere between 50 and 70 jokes a week. So it's something that you can edit. Jerry Seinfeld said that if you're writing 10 jokes a day every day, you'll have 3,650 jokes. Of those, maybe 10% are worth just trying to put up on stage. So 365 jokes that you put up on stage. And of those 365, maybe 10% of those stay in your set. So you have somewhere between 35 and 50 jokes created a year that go into your permanent set. And if you do the timing of it, that equates to about 30 minutes a year. So you can see that it's going to take a very long time for you to put together a respectable set. You're going to need to spend a lot of time working on stuff you've already written and editing stuff you've already written, but you also need to spend a lot of time generating new ideas and new material. So your homework between now and the next time you start another module is just write 10 jokes, and it can take 10 minutes to do it. So for example, you can look in your room, like right now I'm looking at a light. So my joke could be, what was the world like before lights? That must have been hard. Probably able to have sex with a lot more people than we do now, because nobody would have to look at me. Funny, not funny, I don't know. I just made it up. But that's one that I could write down and I could move to the next thing. So you could do some observational comedy. You could tell a joke about something that happened at your job, at your work, something that happened with your family or your friends. We don't know if it's funny until you start to write it out. So explore it, write it, don't edit it, don't judge it. It's fine. We can find funny in everything. Do you find that you're having a tough time doing the homework? Do you find that you're not motivating yourself to write the jokes or get yourself up on stage? We actually offer one-on-one coaching, and we can do it virtually. And if you live locally, we can do it face-to-face. Virtually works just fine. We have clients all over the country. And we recommend some face-to-face time either by Skype or by you sending over your material to us. But we do one-on-one coaching, and if you're interested, email us at woof@sickpuppiescomedy.com, and we're more than happy to work with you one-on-one.